Hello, Ministers. It is Melcy Wrath, and welcome to the first intro in a series I will be calling Mel's Musings, where in it I'm going to seek to share thoughts on topics and perhaps insights that I feel are valuable to offer, things I wish I knew when I was younger, and just so on and so forth, because I've been watching a lot of content that is like this recently, and have found it to be very encouraging and helps build me up and helps keep the right things in mind as I get about my work each and every day. So you may be wondering, animated character on the screen that I am, for those less familiar with VTubing, why Mel's Musings are ones of any value or something you should be listening to. And my answer to that would be that although I am just a small aspiring VTuber beginning to experiment in this medium of content creation, in the real life side, it's a bit different. See, I had grew up wasting most of a trauma-filled and uneventful adolescence, and spent most of this time just playing games, wasting my life away, and not having really any future aspirations or desires to achieve something for myself. I even then went on to continue this in college, where not knowing or really having interest in the things that I believed I generally wanted to pursue, I then proceeded to, turn in no assignments for the last 3 weeks of my courses, and totally fail as a result, going from high B's and A's all the way into the F range. And so becoming a college dropout, my life was at a complete dead end. And, I didn't know what to do. So where the story changes is that I had gotten a job, and within a year, I turned an entry-level job into a career that I can now comfortably work in and retire in for the rest of my life, if I so choose. So how do we get there? And how do we get there from absolutely nothing? And how can this translate into other areas of our life besides just commercial success? That is what the Mel's Musings are going to attempt to provide to you. Because, as people who are watching who are possibly VTubers or, just anyone in general, it's harder than ever to make your way in this perilous world where none of us make enough money and everyone is strapped for opportunities, cash, time, effort, and so on. And of course, for the VTuber side of the audience, we love to make poor financial and time investment decisions. So with that being said, we're going to get into our first musing, which is the idea of entering your role. Now, this is something that I have worded very deliberately, and you're going to see why that is the case. So first of all, let's think about what our role is. What do I mean when I say that? Well, what I mean is your role in any type of pursuit which you would like to work in, advance yourself in, develop in any way, shape, or form. Whether this is just a casual hobby, whether it is a position at work you're trying to get for yourself, a general career that you want to start. Really, I think for any application, this idea applies. And it's also a bit presumptuous because you can already see in the title, it says entering your role. Now, the thing is, because you are doing the process of entering, it is obviously not your role at this present point in time, is what we are assuming. And if you're already there, then great job. But surely there's some area where you still would like to enter into whether be it now or in the future. But in order to enter the role, the first thing you must do is appropriate the fact that it is your role. It can be your role. And a big part of this is also acting the role. You want to look at one of the most important things, and really the reason I have started this series and the reason I've watched other people who have done similar is because the life experience of others, which is shared to you, can be, grasped onto and used to advance yourself in ways that skip a lot of the hard lessons people had to learn from making the mistakes that they had to learn those lessons. You can learn those lessons before making the mistakes. And in doing so, what's important is that we not only weed out the bad conduct, but we also start conducting ourselves with the positive things of someone in that role. So, if you think about a manager, for example, of any type, something that is very desirable for a role like that is to be personable. So you want to be presentable, friendly in your actions to others, always integrating into and taking leadership roles within a team wherever applicable, many other things of this nature. You look at people who are in that role who are obviously skilled at it and the positive traits they exhibit, which are things that will be desirable for you if you want to be in that role. And you think about which ways you can emulate these. You brainstorm, how, like, what is this thing that they're doing? Why are they doing that? Why does that work for this given situation or this role? And this is a very important step because almost all of your learning when you are trying to advance into something is going to have to be done by you. This is one of the hard truths that I think you figure out, particularly when you enter the workforce. But it is that you are very seldom going to get someone who wants to help you in a dedicated one-on-one manner. And even if this is the case, it is even more seldom the case. It is even more exceptionally rare that they're going to take an excess of their time to be helping you. Really, it's going to be more on the minimal side, and it may even be extremely minimal where you only get a pointer here or there, and everything else is more or less left to you to figure out. Now, this is not something to be discouraged by, but it is an important misconception which you need to remove, which is that someone is going to, when you express your desire to enter a position, and some people don't even express that desire, which is another thing that we'll get to, it is often expected that what follows is going to be a progressive nurturing and guidance into that role, creatively, in a hobby, business, or otherwise. But the reality, as we've just outlined, is that this is more or less never the case. And irrespective of what help you're getting, the most important thing is that the majority of the work comes from you, because people cannot instill, the right conduct that you need to exhibit to be in a role. People cannot just give this to you. This is something you have to develop. And again, like we said, other people can expedite your learning process. They can point you in the right direction so that you are learning in the right way. But ultimately, it is only your experience that is going to mold you into actually fitting that role. And this active molding process is something that you need to engage in well before you're in the role, because the other thing is that most people nowadays either cannot afford to risk you as, like some kind of prospect when you have not shown yourself as like essentially doing the role and being more than capable in the role already. They're very hesitant to offer this kind of upward mobility, and even in like creative opportunities, this is the case as well. And so you need to always be pursuing this excellence yourself, pursuing all these traits and characteristics and skills is a big thing. Developing your skill set, understanding what you need to know, and basically breaking down the role into, like each of these small manageable parts that you can pursue one at a time and learn. Because if you want to enter the role, you need to essentially already have it, and sometimes even have it well in advance. Something that comes to mind actually is the ridiculous trap where you have a degree which is giving you the 4 years of experience, and then they want 4 years of professional experience in addition to your degree for the entry-level job, which is no longer an entry-level job. But in this way, you can see how this unfair principle certainly manifests in real time. And, as it's, I never said it was fair, but many things in this life aren't. And so the only thing we can do is then learn how to navigate best in those treacherous waters. And so to enter the role, we need to believe wholeheartedly that it is something we can achieve, which is the first thing. Because if you look at a role and it's like, wow, this is just so impossible. Like, this is never something I could be in. Or it's like, oh, but this looks like super difficult. I'm going to need someone to help me with a lot of stuff. What you're going to find is that when you do that process of breaking it down to its simplest parts, a lot of things are things that are just general life skills or like principles or abilities that you can very easily, in fact, work on and develop with just a little bit of practice every day. Or, depending on the medium, for example, because since I mentioned the career job, I am a butcher, and, in fact, to become a butcher, I more or less had to fully self-train, all alone, just with the pieces. And this was something that I did for most of these cuts. But, if I had just looked at the entire spectrum of what is across the cow and overwhelmed myself with, okay, I have to do that, and I have to do the pig, and I have to do the lamb, and I have to do the chicken, and I have to be able to clean the market, order, the animals for the market. All of this would just come in as like a tidal wave and overwhelm me. But with the pieces, it was really easy because all you have to do is cut that piece. It's one piece at a time. And just like how the animal is broken down, and from there, it becomes a second nature thing with enough time. This is the same way with your pursuits, where if you look at the finished piece, you will say this is impossible. But when you look at the smaller processes, you can see, if I just do this, and I can do it repeatedly, this is something that, okay, I can do this. And you repeat it to the next thing and the next thing. And then all of a sudden, those three things come together. And then that is a major task of the thing you are trying to achieve. I also think about competitive Pokemon because I know I'm being very like workforce professional right now. But, even for a hobby, like let's think about, Pokemon. When I want to improve in competitive singles, if you look at, just be good at like, the team builder and be good in the preparation aspect and be good in the actual match, be good across, maybe multiple generations and formats. Taking all of this on simultaneously it's an absurd proposition. And so what you do instead is you take pre-existing good teams and you play with them, the ones that are publicly available. And so you play with these teams because when you already have the good team, all you need to do is get experience within the metagame, and you will develop a sense of the things that are good, the things that are bad, the things that are right and wrong, and how they all interface and interact with each other. And this will give you a very good framework to take on the more abstract tasks like of team building and stuff. And so obviously in this analogy, one of the parts was solved for us. In most skills, you're able to get that one part for you, whether that is someone's minimal help, independent learning you've done online, which was something I certainly did a lot of, and am doing, in fact, in Pokemon, but certainly at the time, a ton for butchering. You can take into your own hands filling that step, which will allow you to go into the bigger scale and the abstract, and from there, we are actually well on our way to entering the role. So now that we've believed this is my role and I'm going to enter it, is an affirmation that is motivating and pushes you, and it's something that you need to tell yourself, because not only, if you're not catching the trend by now, it's that even people who may support you entering the role are not going to do the work for you. And that's not a fault of their like character or anything, because to be honest, most of the time they're not even in the capacity to be able to help you in that way, or maybe it's just not their strong suit. Whatever the reason is irrelevant, because the point remains the same, that all that effort, pretty much all of the effort, has to be you. And so when you are coming in, you don't have to have necessarily a confidence that like, oh yeah, this is my role, I own it, and I'm going to take it right, like right here, right now. You can have anxiety, you can be scared, you can be terrified. There, about a year and a half ago, something like that, I literally was staying up until like 3 a.m. when I had work at like 6 a.m. the next morning, just tossing and turning, like on the verge of tears, thinking like, I cannot do, like, I'm never going to make it as a content creator. I can't do this. And of course I'm in a much better space now, and am very excitedly working on a model to properly pursue that. But the thing is that sometimes you need to go through this phase of like anxiety and unease and uncertainty. So if it comes, just let it. But never doubt your well, you're going to doubt your conviction. But my point is that you need to hold on through the many storms that are going to combat this, because oftentimes going forward to the next step is like it's not easy, it's not comfortable, and true growth never is. So when you are entering this affirmation, in a way, is like, the shield you put forward that says, even if you're gonna hit that shield so hard that like it like bruises, maybe even breaks my arm, it like knocks me down onto my butt. The thing is that I'm going to get back up, stand there. You're not going to get past the shield, and I will have the resolve with that broken arm. That is whatever circumstances, mentally or physically, that are restraining me from this. And I'm going to, very painfully take those steps forward to enter that role. That's more of what the affirmation is, and it's a very important thing that, psychs you up and allows you to stay focused on the big picture that is important. Because, well, when it comes to your improvement, you actually need to focus on all of those little things and not the big picture. You need to always be looking at that ideal goal that you're wanting to achieve, because if you don't have, your eye on that as well, then you're going to lose in your mind the wonder and the joy and like the whole motivation for why you are doing all those little things. So, well, when it comes to your work, it's going to all be the small stuff. In the big picture, you got to think about the big picture, obviously, because it would be horrible for you to be taking the right steps to get to your vision, and then because you're so focused on them, thinking, wow, I don't think I really want this, and then walking away from something that, you truly would love or want to pursue, which was what I almost did, of course, with content creation. And so that is an example that hits very close to home when it comes to me. See, you're armed with that affirmation. You take the little steps and you make the absolute most out of everything that all those little things and clues that have been given to you. You take them, you maximize them, you make the most. You constantly seek learning and opportunity. Even take initiative on that front. Because the thing is that if you are very eager to develop yourself, and you openly show that to people, that is also going to get you more help, and more importantly, more opportunities. Like I was saying before, but we never really got into, if you do not make it very public that this is the role you want to enter, and, what do I do to get there? If you do not make these types of statements and then follow it up with the work that you're outputting, then how are you going to expect people to have a desire to give you opportunity or to see the things that you're putting in? You need to put a spotlight on yourself, even if that is, for example, like, let's say art is your hobby. Share your creations. Every time you make a piece, it doesn't matter what you think of it. Just put it to, somewhere. I mean, unless like it's, I don't know, maybe like if it's just well, no, I mean, really, even your experiments you should put out there. Always, if something is your outlet, it should be an outlet. Really, I feel like outlets are generally meant to be shared. And in doing so, you can show people that you are trying, you are experimenting, and you are developing yourself because you are taking those steps to do it, and to do it every day or as frequently as you're able to. And when you do this, you show your passion, you show your desire. And when you want to enter your role, these are things that demonstrate to people that you really want it. And these are things which can garner you support, they can garner you resources, and they can garner you opportunities. Like, oh, continue the art example. Like, oh, can I commission you? Or, oh, do you want to do an art trade, for example? Maybe the art trade inspires you to work on a piece in a way you never did. And then, they make the piece to their piece can surely show or teach you some things. And then because you're doing this trade, you can then have a detailed conversation with them, possibly develop an artist friend, and also surely learn along the process. And so you can see how even, when we take the professional and like the money aspects of like career, etc., out of the picture, in this example, we see how beneficial it is that you have this passion. So you arm yourself with the affirmation that it's your role, you're going to enter it. And you behave in a manner that is according with someone who's in that role. Like, wow, I'm so glad think about your goal. Think about, oh, I'm going to be super happy when I'm here. So embody that happiness now. Embody that enthusiasm and that desire and that drive, because the thing is that even when you're in the role, you are still going to be doing a lot of like growing and learning within it all the time. So the more that you do now, the further you get ahead, the less you're going to be behind when you actually find yourself in that role. And in the first place, it enables you to get there in many situations when you otherwise either would not have or would have been on such a stunted, messed up trajectory. Because, for example, if I did not mostly teach myself butchery, then there's a good chance that maybe I would be like starting at the position I am now, but I would be just starting instead of having, like several months profile of experience. And that is a difference that matters a lot, because, the me of back then versus the me of now, there are some drastic changes that are a lot more for the better. And so you really don't want to be caught like with your pants down in that role, if you were to be put there preemptively. And so that's another reason that they demonstrate that caution. But another one, even more so, that is why you need to get into that role even before you're in it. So I think, to summarize, to enter your role, whether that's a career, a job, a promotion, a new hobby, advancement within a hobby, to either become more professional or just get better at it, so on and so forth, any type of pursuit, I think, requires a belief that it's possible through breaking down the whole thing into the little daily process parts, or as close to daily as you're able. And you focus them each a little bit at a time. You do this with a great passion and enthusiasm because you understand that by working on them every day, you will eventually reach the goal that is going to make you that happy. And by showing the enthusiasm of someone who is already in the role, you demonstrate to people a passion that inspires and motivates them, encourages them to give you opportunity, and also shows and affirms every day, not only to you, but to those who can potentially give or help in giving you that role, that you are meant for that role. And as you behave in a manner that is fitting of that role, and you appropriately build yourself towards it, you are soon going to realize that, wow, I really should be in that role. It is no longer a pipe dream or some kind of strange, fantasy that you've idealized of yourself, because you've taken the necessary steps to be worthy of it. And now all it's going to take is that formalization, or if it's not, something that's more official like that. But there you are. There you are with enough time. And so think about in your life, is it trying to build a career? Is it being better with your finances? Something I could certainly do with not eating out so much. There's a million things, but I think entering your role, whether that's being more your role of being more responsible with your money, your role of getting the post-grad job that you've wanted, whatever these things are, there's always some type of door that you can pry open just a little. And as long as you can do that, you can get your head in and keep it there and get louder and louder until there's going to be no choice but to let you in. So best of luck to everyone trying to open that door. And remember, it's your role. It's just up to you to enter it.